Hello, everyone. Really excited to see so many people participating in our first edition of Developer Office Hours. So let's get started. We're trying our best to engage with the community, and we are really happy to introduce this new event. Developer Office Hours is a place to learn more about the developer ecosystem at Subspace, find out what tools are available for developers, and learn more about Subspace domains. This is also a really good place to ask questions, raise any concerns, and share your ideas on improvements community and Subspace team can introduce to make our developer ecosystem better. But first, let's start with the introductions. My name is Emil. I'm a developer community manager here at Subspace. My prior background is petroleum engineering, then software engineering, and I'm also been an ambassador for Subspace for over a year and a half before joining a team on a full-time basis. Alongside me, I have Jim, who is the head of ecosystem team. I'm sure that by now everybody knows who you are, Jim, but for those who don't, could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Thanks, Emil. Yeah, so I'm Jim. I'm head of ecosystem. So I will reel off my usual speech that I joined the project as a farmer, and I came up through the ambassador program. And my journey, or Emil's journey mirrors mine, which is that I rose through the ambassador program and eventually became a team member. One of the interesting things you might not know about me, though, is that in a previous life, I was a developer on .NET and the Microsoft stack for a number of years. So I've got quite a long background in software development. But for me, Solidity and EVM, these are all new concepts. So I'll be learning along with you all. So I'll probably be asking the newbie questions, but don't be shy. There are no stupid questions, and we're all here to learn. But yeah, so thanks for joining us today. I'll pass the mic back to Emil.
All right, yeah, thanks, Jim. So today we're talking about the Subspace domains. We'll take a look at our brand new developer documentation, complete a walkthrough for the smart contract deployment, and answer any questions you might have. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So what is a Subspace domain? Domains are the extension of our decoupled execution framework. Since Subspace doesn't rely on a single monolithic execution environment, it splits the network into modular networks of namespaced execution environments. And these execution environments are domains. And each domain is its own programmable layer 2 rollup or application-specific blockchain that relies on the main chain. So in our case, it relies on Gemini 3F test network for consensus, data availability, and settlement. And very soon, we will release a guide on how can everyone easily launch their own domain while still receiving the shared security and interoperability from the root chain. And we aim to make deploying a rollup on Subspace as easy as deploying a smart contract on Ethereum. And our EVM domain will be called Nova, but at the moment we're calling it just Subspace EVM domain. And Jim, could you please elaborate a little bit on when we can expect the Nova?
Yeah, so Nova is our it's not really a code name anymore because it's out in the public, but Nova is the name of our Subspace launched domain. Specifically, it runs it uses the EVM compatible runtime. There is a future where you will be able to tailor the domain runtime to your own use case. So maybe you need faster blocks, maybe you need slower blocks, maybe you need bigger blocks. Whatever your use case may be, eventually, I'm promising something for the future here, you'll be able to customize the runtime. But yeah, for the moment, out of the box, we support an EVM runtime. So you can spin up a domain using that EVM runtime. You can have your own one if you want. Creating one is creating a domain with an existing runtime is basically submitting a transaction. So what is Nova? Nova, as I said, it's the team-launched EVM domain. And the version that we're going to be looking at today is almost like the pre-release Nova. It's our test version, if you like. This is very early days for us with our execution environments. And there is a plan to pretty soon, although I can't give you an exact date at the moment, pretty soon we'll be releasing another domain, which will be the true Nova. So to kind of give you some perspective, the Nova we're looking at today is like our pre-release testnet Nova, and we'll shortly be releasing our true testnet Nova. And then obviously when we hit mainnet, we will have a Nova there as well, which we'll deploy. But hopefully that all made sense. But yeah, so we're looking at the pre-release Nova today, and there will be another domain instantiated. So for transactions and contracts we deploy today, for example, would need to be redeployed on the new domain when it's released. But hopefully that will make sense. Did it make sense to you, Emil?
Yes, that makes total sense. Yeah, thanks for that clarification, Jim.
Cool.
Okay, so today we're looking at the EVM, or Ethereum Virtual Machine Domain, which is the key core component of the Ethereum infrastructure. So, and the way it functions is that the EVM serves as a decentralized computing engine of the Ethereum network. The EVM is responsible for executing smart contracts, self-executing code written to the blockchain. And essentially, every node in the Ethereum network runs the EVM, ensuring consensus and consistent contract execution. And the use of gas within the EVM allocates resources and prevents spam. And I'm thinking that you might ask, why would Subspace launch their own version of the EVM if one can just use the Ethereum blockchain? And I think that's a very good question, and I had it at the beginning too. So let's try and take a look at the differences. So in terms of scalability, so one of the most well-known limitations of Ethereum is scalability, and which is not the case for Subspace, because Subspace can scale almost indefinitely. And in terms of cost, running transactions and deploying smart contracts on Ethereum can be expensive, especially when the network is congested. And the more I use it, I see that it's like every time I try to execute a transaction, like every time it says that the network is really busy right now, so the transaction fee are pretty high. And once again, with the scalability of the Subspace, it shouldn't really be a problem. So the cost to execute smart contracts would be much, much lower. In terms of interoperability, Subspace will support cross-domain messaging and bridging, since it's designed from the ground up to be interoperable with other chains. So all the domains launched within the Subspace will be able to communicate with each other. And essentially, you will be able to transfer the tokens from one domain to another and into the Subspace, which is not the case for a lot of ecosystems. In terms of security, proof of archival storage offers a higher level of security compared to proof of stake blockchains. And in terms of storage limitations, Ethereum storage costs are very high, which can be a limitation for applications that require expensive on-chain data storage. And once again, this shouldn't really be a case for Subspace. Yeah, I think that's what we wanted to cover about the EVM domain. And the next steps are just jumping into it right away. Let me just share my screen, and together we'll have a look at our new documentation. Can you see my screen? I think I should be sharing now.
Yep, I can see your screen, Emil.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So if you go to the Subspace network documentation, you will see that there is a new tab available for everyone, which is the developer docs. Yeah, there is a small bug that two tabs are being highlighted at the same time, and we're gonna fix it very soon. So, but now, if you click on the developer docs, you will see that there is a whole new section devoted to the introduction, quick starts, and all the toolings available for you. What really is cool that since Subspace utilizes an instance of the EVM, every tool used to build, test, and deploy smart contracts on Ethereum is also available for Subspace. So if you're familiar with the Remix, with Foundry, with the Hard Hat, and with pretty much any other tool available for Ethereum ecosystem, you can just continue using it and point to our RPCs. If you're experienced, the only section of the documentation you really need is the quick start. And the quick start is just the place where we point to our RPCs. So how can you connect and interact with our EVM domain? There is a section on how can you get the tokens to your EVM compatible wallet. And at the moment, we're using the Google form, and we'll be sending out tokens pretty rapidly after you request it. But very soon, I could even say that in the next couple of days, you will be able to use our Discord bot and web interface to request tokens too. So we are working really hard to launch the automated faucets really soon. Yeah, so that's basically all you need if you're an experienced developer. If you're not experienced, we try to write the documentation in a really easy to follow guides. So like if you're interested in how to use, for instance, like a remix for deployment, there is a step-by-step guide with a lot of screenshots, with the code samples on which takes you basically from the first step of like where to go and how to open the tool, to the steps of like how do you connect to our domain, how to deploy it, and what should be the what are the outputs you should see in the console after you run the code to ensure that it's working properly. Of course, any feedback from the community or any improvements are always welcome. So this is only a first version of the documentation, and I would assume that the more tools and more guides will be coming in the future. If you're curious to participate or have any questions, feel free to jump into our forum, or there is a specific developer channel on our Discord. If you want to get an access to this channel and to really want to make it role gated so that there is no spam or like no I don't know other questions other than developer what the developer might want to ask. We made it role gated, and in order to get an access to this channel, you just need to connect your GitHub account to our Discord. So you can click on the Subspace network at the top left corner. You can proceed with the link trolls, and here you will be authorizing the Discord via your GitHub account. So as soon as your GitHub account is linked to a Discord, like you will get an access to this channel. Okay, so I guess, sorry, yeah, Jim, go ahead.
Sorry, Emil. I was just going to point out that we are going to be quite strict about the kind of off-topic discussions popping up in our developer channels. We do want to keep them on point. We want to create a home for developers and foster like a collegial atmosphere in there, somewhere you can come and collaborate and ask questions specifically about developing on Subspace. So sorry to interrupt your flow there, Emil.
No, that's a really good point, Jim. Yeah, so if you scroll up, you can definitely see that previously we had this channel open, and there were quite a bit of questions related to the farming. But yeah, as Jim said, we will try to keep this chat focused on the developers. Okay, so let's. I guess that's the time yet a lot of you have been waiting for. Let's try to deploy a smart contract live on the first developer office hours. So the first step to deploy a smart contract is, of course, to create the EVM compatible wallet and connect it to our RPCs. So, and the way it works is that there is a section in the guide. You can find it either in setting up at MetaMask section, or it's also available in a quick start. And what we need is to grab our RPC URL. And if you go to the MetaMask, you will click on Add the Network, and we will add a new network manually. So we can just create any name for it, but of course, we will call it Subspace EVM. We will provide the RPC URL from the documentation, and the chain ID in our case is 1002. Yep. And the currency symbol is TSSC. And we click on Save, and it will automatically prompt us to switch to Subspace EVM. And here you are. So now you have a wallet which is connected to our domain. As you can see, I already have some balance. So for those of you who will connect it for the first time, like your account's balance will be 0. So, and if you wanna get some tokens, please just use our faucet. Yeah, then let's try to do the first deployment with a really cool tool called Remix. And I already have it pre-set up. But basically, if you are curious, how can you do that too? You just go to the section about our Remix IDE. There is a code samples that you can copy, and then this contract will have 3 functions. We can set a number with a smart contract, we can increment it by 1, and we can decrement it by 1. As you know, deploying smart contracts can be costly. So
Okay. Has anyone else lost Emil's voice? Okay. Emil, I'm not sure if you can help me hear me. Sorry, but I think we've lost your voice. Yeah, and screen share. Okay, so okay, we'll see if Emil can rejoin or snap back to life. But in the meantime, let's take a look at some of the questions we've had. So, Emil, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, quite all right. You just cut out briefly.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, my internet connection is a bit unstable in the last couple of weeks. Yeah, really sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. You're back, so you saved everyone from hearing me. So, yeah, do you want to leave off? Sorry, continue where you left off.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know like at what point did I drop out. But what I was saying is that there is a contract, counter smart contract with 3 functions, and we just compiled it using the correct compiler Solidity version. So we'll compile it, and you'll see that it's been compilation has been successful. Then I introduced another file, which is a test. So yeah, as I mentioned, deploying is associated with covering the gas.
Looks like we've lost Emil again, unfortunately. Check. Yeah, okay, so it's not just me. Okay. So hopefully it makes sense where Emil was going there. We've got this this contract with several methods. We've got like an initialize a setup function, and then we can increment and decrement a counter. See if Emil comes back. I see we haven't lost his screen share this time.
Hey guys, can you hear me by any chance? Am I back?
Yeah, you're back again, Emil. I just tried to I just explained that we've got a contract with increment and decrement methods. I'll let you carry on.
Like, I've been hearing you all this time. I don't know the way it works, so I'm not like losing the connection. So I can still hear you guys talking, and I can hear that you lost my voice. Okay. Oh yeah, really sorry about that. I'm gonna argue with my internet provider again.
No problem.
Okay, so let's test the let's run the test to see if the smart contract is indeed working as we expect. And as you can see, like we have 3 passing tests and 0 failing, which means that it's working as expected. So in order to deploy the smart contract, we'll go to the deploy section, and we'll use the injected provider, which is a MetaMask, which we've just set up and which has enough balance to cover the gas fees for the contract deployment. So we have 3.18 TSSC. As you can see, the balance is indeed shown correctly. So we'll just select the, oops, I think the compilation failed because I lost my connection probably. Okay, we'll go to the deployments again. Yep, so now we can see the counter contract is ready for the deployment and we can deploy it. So usually deployments take 3 to 7 seconds. So I hope that it will be pretty fast this time. So the creation of the counter is pending.
So this is what we had the question earlier, Emil, about what do we need funds for? Why do we need to force it? And this is the transaction here, isn't it? As you deploy this contract, there's a gas fee associated with that, which is why we need to get you coins. And the way we do that is we've set up a faucet, manual at the moment, but automated very shortly. And the interesting thing, of course, is that previously when the tests that Emil was showing previously, there's no gas cost associated with exercising the methods via the test. It's all happening locally. So you don't want to spend gas trying to exercise a contract that you've got a bug in that you could have tested locally and not incurred the gas fee of deploying before finding out. So yeah, that looks like it's gone out there, Emil.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Jim. So we can copy the transaction hash and go to the block scout and try to search if there is any block with this hash. And yes, indeed. So there is a transaction hash with a success result, which has been deployed a minute ago. So which sounds correct to me. So it means that we were indeed able to interact with our EVM domain. So at the bottom here, you will see that there is a deployed contract. So and initially the number is set to 0, of course. So if we call to the number, you'll see that it comes back as a 0. Then we can call increment. And as you know, any change of the state is associated with paying the gas fees. And by calling the increment or decrement function, we change the state. So it means that all of these functions will be associated with the gas fees. But requesting the state is free. It's not change of the state. So if we just call for the number function again, we will see that the function has been increased. The number has been increased, and no matter how many times we check it, like those checks won't be associated with the gas fees. And of course, we can call the decrement again. Once again, I don't know if you see this pop-up, you likely won't, but you can just trust me that each time I click on increment or decrement, I see the pop-up from MetaMask saying that there is a fee associated with this action.
We are seeing that very briefly, Emil. So we can see. So what's happening there is when you're making a call to read the state, there's no charge associated with that. But when you're modifying the state through increment or decrement, that gas has to be paid for. And MetaMask is popping up asking you if you're happy to pay that
Yes.
gas fee.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Okay, so all of the function calls has worked flawlessly as we expected. So yeah, that's basically it. So as you can see, it's pretty straightforward and easy to interact with our EVM domain, and testing, deploying smart contracts works exactly the same as it works on Ethereum. So yeah, hope you feel empowered and encouraged. You're very encouraged to play around with the EVM domain. Give it a try, give it a test, and of course, like as I mentioned before, any guide improvements are very, very welcome. So I'll just stop screen sharing.
We've got a few questions, Emil. Great demo, by the way. Very brave to do a live demo of Web3 contracts on a pre-release testnet EVM domain. God, goodness me, there's a lot of scope for problems there. So well done. You can breathe for a minute. I'll take some questions. So,
yes,
Crypto Addict, yeah, no worries. Crypto Addict, I can see you're keen to understand. Are there incentives for work for following in the paths of what Emil's or following in the footsteps of Emil with his contract deployment and kind of exercising our transactions. So in its purest form, I'm afraid not. Like Emil hasn't just earned rewards doing deploying the contracts and then calling those functions. However, as Emil said, we have a 250 USDC monthly contest for the best docs PR merged. Right, let me unpack that for a minute. So Emil showed you the documentation website at the top of the call, and that's part of. So that is in GitHub, the documentation. If you find something that's factually incorrect, or you find a better way of describing a way to do something, or just find a typo, if you fix that for us and we merge your pull request to make that correction, you go into the hat, the pool of people who not only win one of our exclusive POAPs every month, but also stand a chance to win a $250 USDC prize. So what happens is at the end of the month, we gather around all of the merged pull requests, and the team judge which ones had the most impact or been the most elegant or the most interesting. And yeah, we will pay out. So there's an incentive there. That's something real that's happening right now. And to as far as using our domain, what I will say is watch this space, okay? Because we do want people producing DApps and executing their transactions on Nova, on both pre-release Nova and Nova when we officially release it. And you can expect that we'll be running some community initiatives. They will be incentivized in some way. We're still tinkering with the structure. But yeah, you watch this space. So hopefully that explains things, Crypto Addict. Do keep the
Yes,
questions
thanks a lot,
coming.
Jim. Yeah, really, really good question. Yeah, there is another question, and Lazy Penguin asks, I won't be able to use funds earned in the current testnet. And that's a really good question too. So at the moment, the tokens earned on a substrate-based wallet. And in order to interact with our EVM domain, you need to use the funds from the EVM-compatible wallet. And at the moment, unfortunately, there is no cross-chain messaging, so you cannot really transfer your funds from the substrate-based wallet to the Subspace, to the EVM-compatible wallet. So at the moment, you won't be able to use your farmed tokens to cover the gas fees for the contract deployment. But in the future, and rather sooner than later, once the cross-chain messaging is enabled, you will be able to bridge and just transfer the tokens from one wallet to another. Hope that answered the question. Okay, so let's take a look at if we have any other questions. There's a question.
Sorry, Emil, you've got it? Yeah, I was going to say there's one from our ambassador there.
Yeah, so if you're referring to the Ars question, the faucet is not ready yet, but will be available soon. Am I understanding correctly? Yes, you're understanding it correctly. You can still request tokens using the Google form linked in the documentation, and we will send funds as soon as possible. But very soon you will be able to use our automated faucet, so we won't be involved in actually sending you tokens, but the Discord bot or web interface will do it for us. Yeah, so this is right.
You're very welcome, boss. Okay. Okay. So we're kind of slowing down on the questions, and this is our very first developer office hours. So really, we're just pleased that anyone turned up, and we thank you for doing that. Developers are a core pillar of our community. It's until we had Nova up and running, we've not really been able to build a space and interact in a meaningful way with our developers in the community. So you can expect more of the same from us. There's going to be some initiatives. We love questions. So if you want to kind of jump in and you learn by doing, the developer documentation that Emil's put together is a wonderful way to just jump straight in and kind of get coding and see how it works. And we'd love to hear about your experiences. Emil and I are always about on Discord, so you can get at us, and if you're having problems or you just want to give us some feedback on how things are going. We want the good and the bad, of course. We love good feedback, but the pointing out the bad points is how we improve things, and we appreciate both ends of the spectrum just as much.
Yes, definitely. 100% agree with that.
Okay. So I think with that, should we draw things to a close for today, Emil?
Yeah, I think so. Awesome. Yeah. Once again, thank you everyone for participating. I'm really, really thrilled to see so many people participating in our first developer office hours. Like, to be honest, I didn't know how much interest there will be in the community since we just launched this new documentation and made our EVM domain available for everyone. But it looks like we're getting some traction and there is a lot of interest, and I'm really hoping to see community contributions for the documentation improvements. I'm really hoping to see your smart contracts and dApps being deployed on our EVM domain. And of course, like any improvements, any questions, any concerns, or any feedback is, like as Jim mentioned, it's always encouraged. We're always available on the forum, on the Discord, on the GitHub too. So like, feel free to use any platform which feels better for you. Yeah, and so this event will become bi-weekly. So see you in 2 weeks. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys, and happy hacking.
Happy hacking for sure. Bye-bye, everyone.